What a nice crowd. Got it. Okay. Good evening, everybody. So glad to see so many of you. And we're getting ready just to have this wonderful, wonderful event this evening where we will meet the wonderful Dr. Roni Levin and her father, Dr. Eyal Bor, who is in Tel Aviv at the moment, with Hannah Bor as well. And we are so thrilled that you are here and we're here together to share this event. So don't forget to join us on Tuesday night when Phil Jacobs will be with us in the Agus Library at 7 o'clock for Queen for All Time, where he's going to talk about Queen Esther and some of the wonderful women in politics and in our lives who resemble Queen Esther in every way. Also Wednesday night, Israel Affairs Committee movie, There Are Jews Here, with Ben Prestel, who will be moderating the film, and we welcome you to come and join us this week. It's a very busy week. Also, Seth Keibel will be here to explore klezmer. Come and join us for that as well. And without a doubt, you're going to be relaxing and laughing and enjoying tonight's event with Dr. Roni Levin and Dr. Eyal Bor. And it is my pleasure and my honor to welcome you and to welcome them and to turn the program over to them. Thank you.
Thank you, Aaron. Thank you for your welcome. I am in Tel Aviv, and for me it's good morning. For you, it's good evening. So I'm very happy to be here. It's a very special evening for me today because this is the time where I'm going to interview Roni, our daughter. Hannah is also on the screen. And let me just tell you a couple of things about Roni, and then we'll start the interview. I also want to thank Eileen for being the producer today. Thank you, Eileen. Anyhow, Dr. Roni Levin is an associate professor of ophthalmology and pediatrics at the University of Maryland School of Medicine. After attending UMBC, Dr. Levin received her medical degree from the Pennsylvania State College of Medicine. She completed a residency in ophthalmology at the University of Maryland Medical Center, followed by a fellowship in pediatric ophthalmology and strabismus at the Johns Hopkins Wilmer Eye Institute. She serves as the Director of Medical Student Education for the Department of Ophthalmology. She has received national recognition as a medical educator and was elected to serve a 7-year term on the Association of University Professors of Ophthalmology Directors of Medical Students Education Council. She serves as chair of the American Academy of Ophthalmology Medical Student Virtual Education Committee and has created numerous teaching videos and interactive online classes. Dr. Levin is a member of Alpha Omega Alpha Medical Honor Society, Gold Humanitarian Honor Society, and has been named a top doctor in both ophthalmology and pediatric ophthalmology by Baltimore Magazine. Dr. Levin research interests include health literacy, patient education, and innovations in medical student education. She is authoring over 40 peer-reviewed publications and book chapters. Dr. Levin has been awarded the Real World Ophthalmology Outstanding Humanitarian Award and the Women in Ophthalmology Mentorship Award. So without further ado, we're going to start the questions. And by the end of this interview, if you have any questions you want to put on a chat or you want to raise your hand, we will allow questions at the end of the discussion. So I wanted to ask you, Roni, good evening, Roni, to you and to your family.
Good evening, everyone.
And where are you at now, Roni? Where are you now?
I am home in Ellicott City with my family. We had a wonderful day baking hamantashen. We had a Purim celebration today and just had dinner, and I'm excited to be here and speak with you and all the Bethel members this evening.
Great. And tell us a little bit about where did you grow up?
So I was born in Israel and I moved to the United States at a very early age, and grew up in Howard County, Maryland. And, after my training, my medical training, we returned here. So my husband, Ryan, and I have three children, Rachel, who's 8, Noah, who's 5, and we just had baby Abigail, who celebrated her first birthday last week. And then our golden retriever, Sky, who is hanging out here in the room with me listening to this talk. She always likes to join me for meetings.
So as long as I've known you, Roni, you always loved Judaism, Jewish holidays. You even loved Hebrew school and you loved the Hebrew language. So can you share with us your first memories of being a Jew and what attracted you to be so involved in Judaism?
So I guess my earliest memories are going to Israel every summer. So I would spend, summers in Israel. I would pack a suitcase, half full of books. I was a very avid reader as a child. So I would pack half clothes and half books and go to Israel. And I remember spending time with my grandmothers, and cousins, going to the beach, traveling, seeing all the sites. So I think just spending time in Israel and having family there made me feel more connected to my Judaism. And even here, I was very involved in the youth group, in our synagogue and some of the youth organizations, BBYO. And I always felt connected to my Jewish friends. And I think now, having 3 children of my own, it helped us reconnect. So I feel myself more drawn to our Jewish friends celebrating together. In fact, yesterday we did a Shabbat dinner with my daughter, who's 8, is very connected with her preschool friends. And we met at one of their homes and celebrated together. She painted candlesticks, and it was really nice. So I think, having those early roots and then kind of instilling those values in my children has been really important to me.
And you're fluent, of course, in Hebrew.
I am fluent in Hebrew. So I think I really appreciate that, you and Mom spoke with us at home. Even, the 4 of us, sometimes, even though you would speak with us in Hebrew, we would always answer in English. And I know that it's common with a lot of children who, grow up with a family that speaks another language, that they just want to sort of assimilate and speak English and be part of the culture. But I appreciate that you did that and kind of instilled, the Hebrew language.
I just want to tell you, Roni, you were in much better place than I was, because when my parents didn't want me to understand what they talk among themselves, they spoke Yiddish. So I didn't understand them, and you did understand us. But you can share with us some of your side jobs as you were a student, both in high school, college, and so forth, as side jobs.
Yeah, so it was always important for me to work hard, and um, there were various side jobs that I did. I worked at a restaurant at the Olive Garden. I worked in retail at the mall, and then one of the jobs that was actually the most important and meaningful to me was working with children. So I worked at Bethel summer camp and Bethel preschool. Ellen Marks was the director of the school at the time. And, I worked with the 2 and 3-year-olds. One of those 3-year-olds is now Liam Asher, who is now in the IDF. And he's, I don't know if you saw in the Jewish Times, he's actually was one of my favorites in the class. And he had these big blue eyes and brown curly hair, and he was one of my favorite little students, and he's now a soldier. So I just saw that he's a soldier and I was blown away. And I also taught 1st and 2nd grade Hebrew school. And I think, out of all those jobs, it definitely instilled work ethic. But as a pediatric ophthalmologist, I think the skills that I developed in interacting with children and communicating with the parents are so important. So I often say that my job is part physician, part magician, part clown. So when I'm examining a child's eyes, I have to make them feel comfortable. It's very scary to come to see a doctor and have light shined in your eyes and get eye drops. So I'll often sing with them and, play games. I have puppets and toys. And so I think, being a preschool teacher at Bethel and working in the summer camps, it really taught me how to interact with kids of all different ages. And one of the things I mentor medical students. I know you mentioned that I'm the director of medical student education. So I have students that come and spend time with me, and usually my clinics are very interesting. I see children with all kinds of conditions, genetic diseases, all kinds of fascinating eye conditions. And I had a medical student join me, and that day it was just healthy kids who needed glasses all day. And at the end of the clinic, I wanted to apologize to her and say, oh, this wasn't a very interesting clinic. Usually I see more pathology, more disease. But before I could say anything, she said, Dr. Levin, that was so amazing. And I said, what was so amazing? And she said, well, you just talked to the kids about, what shows they like, and you talked to them about what color shoes they're wearing, and you played games, and you were checking their eyes the whole time. I've never seen anyone do that. So, and she actually, the student, did summer research with me, and she now wants to be a pediatric ophthalmologist. So I think, some of those early jobs really taught me a lot of skills about communication and just how to interact with children and parents too.
Yeah. Roni, can you share with us some of the volunteer projects, the local volunteer projects that you have initiated in the Baltimore area over the years? Also, you were in South America for a mission at which you took your sisters with you. Can you share that at the same time with us, please?
Yeah, so one of my earliest introductions to ophthalmology was the missions that I participated in medical school. I joined a group called World Blindness Outreach, and we traveled to Central and South America, and it was really, really incredible just to see what people experienced there. There were patients that were blind from cataracts and from corneal diseases that couldn't work. They couldn't support their family. So, in some of those cultures, when an individual is blind, they can't contribute to society, and they couldn't drive, they couldn't provide for their family. And so on these medical missions, we would bring all of the equipment with us. So we brought microscopes and tools and, vision screening machines, and we would perform hundreds and hundreds of surgeries. And it was incredible, some of the memories of just the patients taking the eye patch off in the morning, the following day, and salsa dancing in the hallway, and laughing with joy because they could see again. It was really incredible. So, I participated in these missions, and then in my final year, actually as a resident, I continued to go with the group, and my sister Narit was interested in optometry. She was actually in optometry school at the time. And then my baby sister, Shira, was in college, and she was deciding what she wanted to do when she grew up. She went into dentistry, but she knew she wanted to be some type of medical professional. And so I actually invited my two sisters to join a medical mission. And so the three of us went with World Blindness Outreach to Dominican Republic together. And Shira speaks Spanish. She was a Spanish minor, so she was able to get a patient history, help check vision, and Narit was able to use the screening tools to do the examination that we needed to do prior to the surgery. Shira would walk patients in and out of the operating room and hold their hand. So it was really special to be able to experience that, the three of us together. And it's something that I, do hope to continue to do. And then, maybe one day in the future when my children are old enough, I would love to take them with me to medical missions. Oh, I see that Narit is here, and just put a little heart in the chat. Hi, Narit.
I'd like to go with you to one of those missions so I can play the clarinet. That's the best I can
play
do.
the clarinet for the
Yeah.
patients. That would be wonderful.
Yeah. Let me ask you something, Roni. Several times, your sister's mom and I were in your home for a Shabbat dinner or a holiday dinner, and here you get a phone call from the emergency room, and they said to you, you have to report to the hospital with the next few minutes because we have an emergency situation. How does it feel for you to leave your family and just to go to do your job?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard, but being part of University of Maryland, we cover trauma calls. So that means that patients that come into shock trauma with any serious eye injuries, whether it's a motor vehicle collision, a gunshot wound, an assault. I had a patient that was working with a power tool and injured her eye just recently. That means that we're the ones that take care of those patients, and we have to be there for them in their time of need. It's part of the job of what we do. And it's difficult to, miss events or have to leave a holiday or a family dinner. But I think, one of the things that has helped me, I have a good support system. And a very understanding spouse who is not a physician. He's an engineer, so he has flexibility. Is kind of, as the kids are getting older, explaining to them what it is that mommy does. So I've actually brought my kids with me before to the hospital. They've been to my office. Actually, Rachel helped me make a video for the American Academy of Ophthalmology on how to do a pediatric eye exam. And it's actually on YouTube, and it had, last time I checked, it had like 40,000 views. So when, the kids are involved and, they've been with me to the hospital to NICU rounds, they kind of understand what is it that mommy's doing. If she's not home, she's helping people. And so, they used to say, oh, mommy, don't go, don't leave. And now, recently I had to go see the babies in the neonatal intensive care unit. And they said, oh, mommy, you better go because the babies are waiting. The babies need eye exams. So I think now that they kind of understand, and that makes it a little bit easier trying to involve them in what I'm doing. But it's just part of the job. It's part of what we do, and I think we have a responsibility to the community and to society that we work to develop these skills. And it is difficult to wake up in the middle of the night and go into the hospital, or to leave a family dinner, or to miss an event. But it's also a privilege to be able to, be the one to take care of people in their time of need. People say that their number one fear, if you poll people, the number one health fear is cancer, and the number two fear is blindness. And so it's very scary for anyone who has an eye injury. And so to be the person that's there to help them, to say, oh, I'm going to be here, I'm going to, do this eye surgery, I'm going to try to help your vision is a privilege.
This leads me to the question, what is a typical week for you as an ophthalmologist?
So my typical week, I have a lot of variety in what I do, which makes it a lot of fun. So part of my job, I spend most of the time in the clinic, in the outpatient clinic, where I see children, and, I specialize in pediatrics and adults that have eye misalignment or double vision. So I'll see patients in the office, typically 2 or 3 days a week. 1 day a week, I go to the hospital and I see all the babies. So babies that are born, and this is one of my favorite parts, babies that are born premature are at risk of blindness. And I go to the NICU every week and I screen all of the babies. I go to 3 different NICUs, and then also, I do inpatient hospital rounds. So I'll see, if a patient comes into the emergency room, or if they're on, the trauma unit and they have an eye injury, I'll see them. And then 1 day a week, I'm in surgery. And 1 day a week, I do research and teaching. So I have a role in the medical school, and I'll give lectures, I teach students, I work on my research. So that's a typical day is, 2 to 3 days of clinic, a day of surgery, a day in the hospital, and a day of research.
So the job itself, there is a lot of pressure in the job. So, and how do you balance between your life being a mother, a family person, and running a high pressure job?
Sometimes it can be challenging, and I know that there's different phases and stages of my career. So we had, there's a woman, Dr. Jane Edmond, who's a department chair, and I look up to her a lot. She's had this really wonderful career, and she's also a mother, and she's also very stylish and fashionable. And, I say, oh, Jane, I want to be you when you grow up. So she came, we invited her to give a lecture, and we took her out to dinner, and one of the best pieces of advice she told me is that there's seasons. And so, in her life in particular, she wasn't always a department chair. At some point her kids were young and she needed to work part-time. Or, her husband had a very demanding job and she had to take a year off. And so, I have to say no sometimes. There's committees that I can't join. My kids are young, but I do the best I can to balance everything, and, to be there for the events that are really important. And, sometimes for example, I was on trauma call last week and it was my daughter's 8th birthday. So I switched with a colleague and, we do what we can. We have a very collegial team and we all work together. So I think just having, that support system, helps with the balance and having, family around.
So based on what I hear thus far, so you're an educator, you're a doctor, department advisor, graduate advisor to the graduate students, a surgeon. What is the favorite part of this entire, or what is most meaningful to you out of all those disciplines?
I think for me, the most meaningful is being an educator. And when I say educator, I don't only mean teaching medical students and residents, how to do surgery or how to take care of patients. I'm educating patients and I'm educating families. And I think over the years, I've developed a way to teach that I think, really involves everyone as a learner. So for example, when I'm in clinic, I might have a medical student with me, a resident physician, an ophthalmology resident, a pediatric resident, and then I have a child and I have their parents. And so I have to figure out a way to teach all these people in the room at the same time who are all on different levels. And so I think figuring out a way to do that, to explain the disease to the family so that the parents understand, what is happening with the child, why it's important to do the treatment, but at the same time educating the medical students and the residents. I think that is one of the favorite things that I've really honed in on those skills over the years, and I really enjoy teaching. And I feel like to me, the days that are most fulfilling are days that I've taught well. If I have patients that are very satisfied, and, students that are satisfied and feel that they learned, to me that, that's very rewarding and meaningful.
And I always wanted to know, if you weren't a doctor, what would you have done? What other profession would you choose?
That's an easy question. I come from a family of educators. You and mom are both educators, teachers. So I would definitely be a teacher. I think probably elementary age. I like the little ones. I feel like that's my favorite age to work with. So I'd probably be an elementary school teacher. And I think that's just always been something that I enjoy, even back from the Hebrew school teaching days. I feel like that would be hands down what I would do if I weren't in medicine.
Do you go sometimes to your children's schools, to your own children's?
Yeah, I do. I actually did a pediatric vision screening at my children's school, and it was really fun. I checked all the kids' eyes. I've actually come to Bethel preschool and did vision screenings back before the COVID days. And then, one of the things that I did recently with my daughter's school is I came and did a lesson on the eye exam. And my daughter there's moms that come in and they volunteer, and it's wonderful. And, they'll volunteer every week. And, I'm a working mom, I'm a physician, I'm busy, I have patient care. And, my daughter would often say, Mommy, how come you don't come to my class to volunteer? So-and-so's mom was here today. And I said, okay, I'm going to come. But I talked to the teacher and I said, you know what, I'm going to come and do something big. I can't come every week and, cut things out and staple. I do those things when I can. But I came and did a lesson on the eyes. And so it was really fun. I came to her kindergarten class. I brought eye models. We did an art project. I handed sunglasses out to all the kids. And she came with me from room to every kindergarten class. And we taught a lesson about eyes and she handed out sunglasses. And I think, it was really, special and meaningful. And so, I have the opportunity to volunteer in different ways. But I think it's always fun to be able to be included in the school and, attend those activities.
Going to medical school or going to college, we always have one special professor that influenced us the most. Do you have one professor like that, or a person that was in the medical field that had a lot of impact on your career?
I've had many mentors over the year, and actually some of my teachers and mentors are actually here today, Dr. Liss and Dr. Kolker. So I've encountered many people over the years that have influenced me. One person who stands out the most in just my decision to go to medical school was Uri Feldman. So when we came here from Israel, we didn't have family. So all aunts, uncles, cousins, grandparents, everyone was in Israel. And so, when you and mom came here, you became part of the Jewish community, and Uli and Dalia were a wonderful Israeli family that sort of became like grandparents to me. And Uli passed away recently, and so did Dalia. I named my youngest daughter after Dalia. Her middle name is Dalia, but they were very special to me. And every week, I would study physics and math, and Uli was a physicist, so he would tutor me in physics, and it became sort of like our weekly tradition. I would sit on the deck, and Dalia would make delicious cookies and bring me tea, and Uli, would tutor me, and then, I would just sit there and study, and I would study math, I would study physics, I studied for my SATs. And he sort of inspired me. I wasn't interested in going into medicine, but he had, 2 sons in medicine. And he said, Moran, you must be a doctor, in his Israeli accent. And eventually I listened, I shadowed, a physician, and I said, this is really wonderful. So that was a fond memory. And then, other people, I would say, one of the most influential people was my fellowship director, Dr. Guyton, who at Johns Hopkins, who is, one of the most famous ophthalmologists in the world. So, people would come from all over the world, Central America, South America, the Middle East, for him to do their surgery. He had all these patents and inventions and research, but he was the most humble, the most kind person you could ever meet. He would spend time trying to pronounce every patient's name correctly. He was, from Mississippi, from the deep South. He had a Southern accent, and I remember there were Jewish patients that would come from New York to see him, and he would say hi, like he would work so hard to pronounce their names. He showed up every morning for surgery in a full suit, would greet the patient with his suit and briefcase, go change into scrubs, and at the end of the day, put his suit back on. And he was just the kindest, or still is the most kindest, humble person. He's, semi-retired. But I think just being, surrounding yourself with those types of people, I always have that in the back of my mind, the professionalism, the kindness that you have to show every patient, and, really taking the time to get to know people, even to pronouncing their names correctly.
Someone called me Moran. Can you explain what's the name Moran is about?
So Moran is a beautiful name in Hebrew. It is a flower that blooms in the desert. And I think that can be indicative of my character at times. I've had to go through, many hardships with training, with life, and I've always, I feel like I've managed to bloom so well. It is difficult to pronounce. It is, I think that the meaning behind the name is powerful.
I see. Okay, it's not my fault. Okay. Anyhow,
Actually, you're sort of named after your grandmother, Miriam, but I thought that Miriam was a little bit too traditional. So my grandfather said he saw the #1 list of names at that time. This is like, 40 years ago. And he said, how about Moran? And I said, I never heard this name. He said, it's in the new names, one of the top #1 in Israel. So he chose it for you, my grandfather, and it's my grandmother, Miriam. So on top of your explanation, this is the name.
okay, I'm out of this. Okay.
And when you do have a name that's more difficult to pronounce, I've just gone by a nickname my whole life here. So I'm Alon in Israel, but I'm Roni in the United States. So
You're also in much better place than I am, because my name, Eyal, I was called all the names in the world, including the airline El Al. So, I'm Eyal, Eyal. So anyhow, I wanted to ask you something. There are many people who are listening to us tonight. Some of us are seniors. Do you have any advice for us to maintain good eye vision? What would you tell us? What would you tell our children? What would you tell our grandchildren as far as preventative medicine?
So they say the eye is the window to the body, and there are many diseases in the body that can affect eyesight. So diabetes, high blood pressure, these are things that can affect the eye. So I would say, really to try to maintain good health. If you're diabetic, try to control your blood sugars. If you do have diabetic eye disease, it can be treated. There's, medications, there's laser procedures, but I think prevention is key. So if you, take good care of your blood pressure, take good care of your health, take good care of your diabetes, that can help prevent eye disease. And then just seeing an eye doctor regularly. And the other thing, one common thing that we'll have patients, presenting to the ER with vision loss. You don't notice, you have two eyes, right? So if you have dim vision or poor vision in one eye, you might not notice it. So, just periodically check one eye and check the other eye separately. And if you notice a big difference in your vision, see an ophthalmologist.
Before I'm going to ask you, we have 2 more questions, but I want to ask you, do you remember I drove you one day to take an SAT test and you forgot something? Can you share what happened on that day? I never knew since then what happened.
So yeah, that day was very memorable. I went to take my SATs. I wanted to take it one more time because I wanted a high enough score so that I could, go to, the prestigious university. And I forgot my ID. I forgot my driver's license, and the mean lady would not let me start the test. And I said, my dad is on the way. He's driving he's bringing my driver's license in. Can you just let me start the test? And he'll be here in just a minute. She wouldn't let me start it. So I never took the SATs again. But I, am thankful. I think everything works out for a reason. I ended up going to UMBC on a full scholarship, where I met my husband, Ryan, who's an amazing partner, and we have 3 kids together. And who knows, maybe if I had, not forgotten my driver's license, I would have, gotten into a different university and, had a different course. But thank you for bringing my license.
And I remember that this lady did not like me either.
No.
Yeah.
I guess rules.
On a much serious note, let me ask you something. what are your thoughts about the war in Israel? You carry two passports, American and Israeli. And what are your feelings about the unfriendly attitude towards Jews in the United States and in Israel? And do you feel any of that in your practice?
So, as a physician, I, have to be professional, and I take care of patients from all different backgrounds and beliefs. And, one of the things that actually stood out to me was the support that I've gotten from non-Jewish patients after October 7th. I've had, I have some patients from inner city Baltimore that came in, and they, this was I think the first or second week of October, and they were wearing Magen David bracelets, and they said, "Doc, we wanted to let you know that we support your people. Our church is praying for you." I have a nurse that I work with, also from Baltimore. She's not Jewish, and I came in the first, I think it was the Friday after October 7th, and she came in with a bag of chocolates and gave me a big hug. And I said, "Oh, I know you're going through a hard time, doctor, but I'm here to support you, and we're praying for you." And then, recently there was a patient that I operated on. He had a brain tumor that caused him to have double vision. And I did surgery on him, and he came in and he said, I wanted to let you know that I went with my church on a mission to Israel years ago, and the people of Israel are so wonderful. I saw how they live together in peace. And I'm really thankful for Jewish doctors. My neurosurgeon, Dr. Eisenman, and saved my life, and you, Dr. Levin, saved my vision. So, I'm very thankful for my Jewish doctors, and so hearing, there are difficult times, but trying to focus on the positives, and it always catches me off guard, and I find it even more meaningful when I have non-Jewish patients that reach out just to ask, "Oh, how is your family in Israel? How are you doing? We support you." And hearing about those that their church is praying for Israel, and that is very meaningful too, to see support from others.
It's wonderful. That's great. I think now I wanted to pass the floor to folks who may have a question or two. Is there anything on chat, Eileen, that you can ask Roni, if there are any things that people are interested to know? Okay. If anyone has a question, you can raise your hand. I see Patty. Please unmute yourself, Patty.
I don't have a question. I just want to say, Roni, you're wonderful, and congratulations to Eyal and Hannah. You must be so proud of your daughter. That's all.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Sandy?
Wait, Patty, we are proud of all three of our daughters. They're all so thoughtful and beautiful and wanted to make the world a better place, and that's for real. So we're very blessed with our three daughters. And this evening we had dinner with our son in Tel Aviv. So this was the biggest gift to us. We just landed in Tel Aviv, and the first thing my son heard we already landed, he left work and he came and he gave us the biggest hug in the world. So thank God, we really are thankful for all our kids.
Oh,
And
That's in Tel Aviv today, this evening.
Right. Well, just congratulations. And, of course,
yeah,
they got it from the two of you. So,
oh, thank you. Last summer you met our son in Israel in the group, right? So that's special.
Yeah. And I'm sure that Roni was a good role model and a good mentor to her sisters to go to the field as well. And I thank you for that. And Mommy, thank you for that, for doing that. Anyone wants to ask a question to Roni or to us, or,
Sandy has her hand raised.
Okay, Sandy.
Actually, it's David.
Hi,
Oh, David. David.
first I want to say what you're doing for humanity is wonderful. And I have a question about that. I'm sure you've had several children, not sure what ages, maybe from 2 up, maybe 2 to 8 or 9, whatever, who were severely limited in their sight, or some of them even blind, and you were able to give them sight. When that time comes, that moment when maybe you take the bandages off and they can see, I just, how do you feel at that point?
Yeah, that's amazing. It's such an amazing feeling to be able to help restore sight in children. And it's not always, something as dramatic as doing a vision saving surgery. So, infants, I don't know if you're aware, you think of cataracts as something that happens in older adults, but children, there's some children that are born with cataracts, or they develop them at a young age. And that's, doing cataract surgery in infants is very satisfying. Doing surgery for crossed eye and lazy eye, but it doesn't always have to be something so dramatic. I've had infants that just have really, really high refractive error, that they need glasses, and that the parents say, oh, they're not interactive, and we'll put the glasses on, and all of a sudden their face will light up, they'll start smiling and clapping and looking around and cooing and making noises. So that is that's always so wonderful, and the parents are like, oh my goodness, this is incredible. So I love, working with the babies and the children, and, adults too, that have double vision, that are having trouble driving and reading. But I have to say that my most favorite patients to work with are, the teenage girls and the young women. So my specialty is crossed eye, lazy eye. And so some of these young girls and young women are so self-conscious about having a misaligned eye. They'll come in, looking down with their hair covering their face, just really, self-conscious. And when we do the surgery to make their eyes straight, it gives them confidence, and they can look people in the eye and make good eye contact. And it really changes their world. So those are like my most favorite moments, is when they come in for the post-op visit and they have straight eyes and they're smiling and making good eye contact.
Great. See, before I'm having my closing remarks, but I see your sister Shira from Chicago is on the screen. Shira, would you like to say something to your sister?
I'm so proud of Roni, and I love her so much. And I talk to everyone in my family on the phone every single day. So we're all super close, and I like to think that I'm sure that Roni inspired me to go into the medical field, but there were enough eye people in our family, so I chose.
And did your sister convince you to go to the medical field too?
Definitely, yeah. And
Okay,
also
good.
helped me with all my applications.
So Shira is studying to be a pediatric dentist. She's in her final year of pediatric dentistry residency, which I think people always say, oh, how do you examine children's eyes? I think examining their teeth is probably even more challenging, because, my patients don't bite me. So I don't know how she does it, but I think it's pretty amazing.
That's great. All right, this is good. So ladies and gentlemen, Roni, I'm very proud of you as much as your mom, right? Hannah, we're all very proud of you. And I wanted just to thank you for a wonderful evening. I wish you and your mom a continued success. And ladies and gentlemen, please don't forget to come to our next My Story event on Sunday, April 14th at 7 p.m. on Zoom, when we welcome and get to know Jeremy Silbert, Bethel's amazing director of marketing and social media. You will want to hear Jeremy's very interesting story and get to know him. We'll see you on Wednesday, April 3rd, for our first Wednesday at Bethel concert, when the Rabbi Mark G. Loeb Center presents the Copeland String Quartet, which is comprised of 4 musicians from the Delaware Symphony Orchestra. And that's going to be a very, very interesting evening of all musical styles with some explanation. again, I want to thank Roni. I want to thank Hannah, and of course, and everyone who is on screen here, and of course, Eileen, Ellen Marks, and her partner Jay, who is there, and everyone who's here. I want to wish you a great week. And from Tel Aviv, Israel, I'm ready to go for the morning run in about an hour or two. So you take care. Laila Tov, Boker Tov.
You be careful out there.
Yeah.
Yes.
Be careful.